In this N8N automation, I'm going to show you how to fully automate Instagram posting, and that means using high-quality infographics that we can now create using AI. So I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. This is what the N8N automation is going to look like. We're going to build it together. But first, let me just give you an overview, and then we'll show you a live example of it in action. So the steps that we're going to take is we're going to use N8N to drive the automation. We're going to use OpenAI's image analyze to analyze examples of infographics that we like so we can understand the style. We're going to use Gina AI, which is a free tool which will go out onto the internet and do deep research for us on a topic. So that's going to allow us to create the content for the actual post, which is going to be highly accurate. Then we're going to merge these two things together and get another module from OpenAI to actually generate a high quality infographic for us. So let me show you an example of what this might look like. So let's test this automation out. I'm going to click test automation, and then in this example, it's going to pop open a form. I'm just going to use a form to show you how to run this automation. But what I would encourage you to do if you're building this out for an application for clients or for like production use is to use an Airtable. So plug in Airtable, keep all the data stored in Airtable and pull it through that way. If you don't know what I mean by that, I encourage you to watch all my previous videos because I use Airtable and I walk you through exactly how to do that in those videos. But for this example, I'm just going to fill out this field here with the post description, the email I want the post to be sent to at the end of the automation. I'm going to give it an avatar to explain who the target audience is, and then I'm going to give it a URL of a infographic that I like the style of. So before I fill that out, let's just say that you find an infographic that you like. For this example, I'm just going to say it was that one. So I would copy that. If this is the style that you're chasing, it might be slightly different. It might be this style. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. But what we're doing is we're giving the AI examples of the style that we want to recreate, like if it's a vector, the kind of colors and tones that we're getting. So I'm going to fill in that form, and all I need to do is put in an example like that, and it will train the AI to do the rest. So I'll fill this out and click submit, then we're going to see the automation in action. Okay, so in the fields here, I just gave it a description of what I want the post to be about. Obviously, you could go into a lot more detail than that. I've given it an email I want it to send to when it's finished, and then I give it the avatar. In this example, it's women going through menopause, and then I give it that example. All I need to do then is click submit. So let's do that. Head back to the automation. It's already started. The first AI agent has got this details that came through the form. It's now already completed that and done the deep research using Gina, which is a tool that I'll show you how to plug in. It's then analyzed the example image that we gave it, so it understands the style. It's passed this on to another AI. It's hard to keep up with it. It's going so fast. And then it's creating the final prompt for an infographic generator. So it understands the post that we created. It understands the example that we had, and all that's getting fed into this image generator, which is going to create an infographic. So when you're doing an infographic type of image for Instagram, you need to train the AI not only on the style, but also what's the post about? Because it's all well and good to have a nice looking infographic, but it actually needs information in it. So that's why we train it with actually the text of the prompt, of the post itself. So now you can see it's finished. We convert the file into something that we can see and use, which is just a simple step. And then it will email the result to us. So I'm going to pause the video, head over to my email now, and we'll have a look at what we got back. Okay, I'm over at my email, and here is the actual body of the Instagram post, and it's all nicely formatted for us. And here's the infographic that it created based on the examples that we gave it. So it's not a bad start. Well, obviously we can tweak this and train the AI to do different styles and formatting, but this is just one quick example. So let me walk you through how you can actually get an infographic created like this and the post, and we'll build out the automation together. So you need an account at N8N to run this. There's a link below, my affiliate link, if you want to grab that and get started with N8N. It's the most powerful automation tool for doing these types of things. So first thing that you need to do once you've got an account at N8N is you need to have this form submission. So again, I really encourage you, if you're building this out on a larger scale, that instead of using just a form to manually submit every time, you'd want to use Airtable to pull the data through automatically. But watch my previous videos on how to use Airtable. But for now, let's just use a form submission. So we're just going to go over to the right and pick a module called N8N Forms. In here, all we do is we just give the form a name, and then those fields that I filled in earlier, we just populate those in here. So depending what you want to fire through the form, this is all you fill in. So you can see here I put the URL, the avatar, etc. So this is just where you populate the fields that you want to pull through on the form. The next module we need here is this AI agent. Okay, so in order to have an AI agent, you need to run that AI agent with a chat module connected to it. So in order to do that, you need an account open at OpenAI. So you need to go to OpenAI, set up an account, and then when you've got an account at OpenAI, they'll give you an API key, and then you can connect these sorts of models when we're running these automations. They have a lot of different models that we can run, and we're going to look at a few of them in this automation. But we can use this particular one to do text stuff. But further along here, we're going to use a different model to analyze images. So there's a lot of different models that OpenAI have, but you need to get an account there and you need to get your credentials. They'll give you an API key, and you need to use your API key in order to connect these together. So once you've done that, I'll pop this open. Here is where you would connect your credentials. I've already done it, but if you hadn't done it the first time, you'd have to go create new credentials, and then you just have to plug in the credentials that they give you in order to connect. So you need to do this a lot if you're doing automations. If you're new to this, I encourage you just to pause the video, go and get used to how to connect things like that, and then come back. So here we choose the model. I'm choosing 4.1 here to run this. So now I've got a model attached. I'm going to hop out of there. And now I'll come back to this tool in a sec. I'm going to open up this module and tell you what it's actually doing. So here we have two different prompts. We have a system prompt below and a user prompt above. So in order to get the second prompt to show up, you just can click add option down below. I'm not going to do it now. This box wouldn't have been there and you would have just chosen a system prompt. Let's pop this up. In the system prompt, we just tell it its role. So it's quite straightforward in this example. It says you're an AI expert at social media strategist focused on producing compelling, high-quality Instagram content, etc. So you can just read that, pop that in there. You can tweak that to what you like. In the user prompt field up here is a little bit more detailed, but it's not too bad. And you can get AI to write a lot of this for you if you want to. You just got to be careful when you're using AI to do things like creating prompts, because they can go a little bit wacky sometimes and put stuff in there that you don't want. So just be careful with that. But all we're essentially doing in here is we're telling it what we want it to do. We've already defined the role, telling it what it is. Now we want to tell it what its task is in the user prompt. Okay, so first I said I need it to create an Instagram post on the topic of, and this is where I map in those fields from the form. So you can remember on the form, one of them was post description. So all I'm doing here is dragging that in there like this, drag and drop, and then it will map this green field over here. And on the right-hand side on the preview, you can see what the AI actually is going to see. It's going to see create an Instagram post on the topic of symptoms of menopause. I do the same thing for the avatar. This is the avatar woman going through menopause because I filled that in on the form. So I'm just dragging this stuff in from the form. Now I give it some instructions on what I want it to do. Okay, now this is really important to get this part right. The reason is I want it to go through a workflow because we're using an AI agent here. So we want to say, this is how I want you to operate. Do this first, do this, do this, do this. And then you also tell it how to do those things. So the first 3 points here are telling it how to use the tool that I've attached to it called Gina AI. Now, Gina AI is a service that you can go out to the web and do research. You can do other things as well, and we're going to have a look at Gina in just a second. But first I say you need to create a query parameter called Q related to the topic of this Instagram post. This will make sense when we get to Gina, but basically what I'm saying is you need to understand this Instagram post, symptoms of menopause, and then you need to create a query string out of that we're going to pass over to Gina. So Gina, when it does its thing for us, knows what it's searching for. Otherwise, the Gina tool that we've plugged in has no idea what we want it to do. It's just going to say, well, what do you want me to do research on? So we want the AI agent to do that for us and say, you come up with the query for the tool. And that's all we're telling it to do. Then we're also telling it, you need to insert that query into the tool once you've come up with it. And then we're telling it to, once Gina has done its thing and got research, it needs to use that research, and then it needs to write the actual post of the Instagram post. That's essentially what we're telling it to do in here. We're saying, follow these steps and write the post. So that's its overall job. Then we're telling it how to output. Below, we're given an example output format of how we want the post formatted, like this. That's all that is. It's just an example output. And then here, I just give it a little bit more guidance on how we want it, the style that we want it to write in. So you can tweak this to, tailor the writing style so it doesn't sound goofy or weird or whatever. But for this example, I've just done a quick example, but you can play around and tailor the writing style that you want it to produce. The next important thing is right below, there's something called tools. Now, this is important that we need to tell it that it's got a tool attached to it called Gina. And it's important that when you name that Gina, the way you name the tool here, you have to name the actual tool when we attach it the same name. Otherwise, it gets confused. So we say, you've got a tool called Gina. Use this tool. You must create the body parameters. So we tell it what we want it to do with the tool. So that's all we do in the prompt here. So at this point, all we need to do is add on that tool. So you notice off an AI agent, there's a tool menu here and we can add stuff to it. So what we're going to do is add an HTTP request module as a tool. And the way we do that is click on the right-hand side and we go HTTP like that, request, chuck that in there. And then in here, open it up. We're going to put all the credentials that we need from Gina AI. So I'm going to go to Gina AI and show you how to get these credentials. Then we're going to come back. I'm going to show you where to fill them in. And then we're going to move to the next step once that's done. So let's head over to Gina AI now. Okay, over at Gina AI, which is JINA AI, first thing you need to do is get an API key. You can get a free account here and they give you credits. Go to Manage API Key and create an API key. Save it on a notepad because you're going to need it. Okay, I'm going to blur stuff out on this screen because it's got my API key on there, but you can just follow along when you're on the same screen as me. So on the left-hand menu, go to Reader. And then you want to go to this module here, which is Search the Web here. Okay, now on the right-hand side, Gina's going to show you how to search stuff. So we're going to slide this over to Post instead of Get. And this is how we're going to post a request to Gina. This CURL is telling us exactly how to add stuff into our HTTP module. So a lot of you will be familiar with how to do this. Some of you won't. So I'd have to spend a little bit more time explaining some of these things, but I'll go through it reasonably quickly. The URL that we want to request, grab that. We're going to paste that into the URL field on our HTTP request. You'll notice here it's got 3 H's, which are 3 headers. We actually only need 2. We just need the first and the third one's fine for this. So the first one is authorization, and then you'll see the value here is bearer with a space, and then your API key is that after that. You need that to connect. And then the only other one you need is X respond with, that one. So you get those 2 headers, and then in this section where it's got D, just grab what's in between those curly brackets. That's really all that's all we're going to need here. You'll notice it's got a Q parameter, which I just set that to run. Well, you can see that's what a result looks like. It actually goes and does what we want. But this Q parameter is what we're telling the AI agent to fill in. So this is the query string or the keyword string. So this will be filled out automatically by the agent. It will come up with a query string for us that is matching the topic of the post that we want it to write about. So all you need to do is copy all that stuff. And let's head back over to N8N and fill it in. So I'm back at N8N now. In the URL, you paste the URL. Authentication, put generic type, and then header auth. And then in here in the header auth section, you need to click that drop down and click create new credentials. And there is where you put that first header of authorization as the key, and then the value, you put bearer with a space and then your API key, and then you click save. And then name it something. So next time you use Gina, you don't have to recreate that. It'll just automatically have this saved for you. Okay, in the headers below, we're going to slide that to green. And then we're also going to put one more header in here called this X respond with, and then just copy what I've got here and values, but no content. Okay, so that's the other second header we needed. And then finally down below, the send body, all we have to do here is use the fields below, body parameters, put one of them's called Q, and then we just let value provided by the model and is required. If you just do that, what this is going to do, the model, the AI agent, is going to automatically fill in the query string for us and send that over to Gina. So this is important to get this part right. So once you've done this setup, that's all you need to do for Gina now to go live on the internet. It'll have a search query because the AI agent would have given it one, and it will go and do research for us for this post. So if you have a look on the right, you can see the example of what it actually pulled back here. It's gone and got research from Mayo Clinic. Sorry, I'm just going to make that a little bit more easy to see. Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, the NHS in the UK. It's gone to the National Institutes of Health. So it's gone to authority websites, and it's got all this information for us that we can use to formulate our posts so that we're not just making irrelevant stuff up in the post. It's high quality authority research that it's done for us. Now, there's a lot of different parameters that we could do, a lot more deeper research, but for an Instagram post, we don't want to go too deep. We just want to do reasonably deep, but not too much. We want people to click through. But this is how you can get the content part with good high quality content. So the agent here is being prompted to output the final text part of the Instagram post, but it's using this to get the research. So that's all it's doing. And then the job is done here. And then you can see there's the text part of the Instagram post completed for us. So that's stored and ready to use later now. So let's move along. The next step that we want to do is start creating this infographic that we're going to use for the image part of the post. So there's a couple of steps that we want to do here. First thing we want to do is add this module here called Analyze Image. So on the right-hand side, this is an OpenAI module. So we go to OpenAI on the right. There's a lot of different modules that we can use here, okay? Analyze Image is one you'll see under the image actions down here, okay? So we're just going to hop out of there, add that in. Now, once you did your credentials on the previous OpenAI module, you can just use the same ones again. So you don't have to recreate the credentials, just use your same credentials. The resource is image, the operation is analyze image. The model I've got is 4.0 here, so you can just copy the setup. The text input here, I'll get to that in a second, but first I just want to draw your attention to down below. It's got input type, put image URL, and what I'm actually dragging in here is a URL from the form we submitted. So you remember at the beginning, we had an example infographic that we liked. I can drag that into this URL field like that. What this is going to do is going to say to this model, I want you to analyze this infographic and break it down and create, a prompt for me so that when I get another AI to actually generate my own infographic with my own content, it understands how to recreate this style. So all I'm doing here is getting the AI essentially to create an image prompt for me because it understands how another AI is going to analyze it. So in this prompt field here, I really just give it that instruction. And I say, you're an expert visual style analyst. Your task is to examine the uploaded image and generate a descriptive image prompt. I'm not going to read through the rest of that because you don't really need me to. You could just pause the screen. You can play around with this and get it to do what you want. But this is how you get it to analyze an example and then create a prompt that we can use. So the whole point of this module is really just to get that prompt to reproduce a similar style of that image. So once that's done, we can move along now. Now we're at the stage here where we want, this is another AI module. So instead of an agent, we're just using a basic LLM chain. So on the right-hand side, just go over here and click on basic LLM chain. We need to create a chat model to it, just like we did over here. So you can just replicate that step. This output parser, I'll show you how to do that in a moment. We'll come back to that. But all this is another AI model. And what we're saying to this AI model is, we need you to create a prompt. So it's another prompt that we're getting created. And we're saying to it, your prompt is going to be used by an infographic generating AI. And it's going to create this infographic for us, which happens to be this one here. So we're saying you need to prompt him to create or her to create that for us. So the way we do that is we say, well, in order for this one here to know how to create that prompt, it needs to understand this prompt that the image was based on, the example, and it also needs to have a bit of context about the post that we're creating. So it needs both of these inputs here into it to create the final master prompt to create the graphic that we want. So all we do here is open her up. We give it a system prompt here below, and we just tell it here, you're an expert infographic design agent specializing in creating prompts that will be passed to an image generator. So we just tell it its role. You can have a look through this. I'll give you the JSON for this actual flow below. So you're going to have this anyway. So you can just read that once you upload it to your N8N. So that's the system prompt. And then in the actual user prompt here, I'm basically just feeding it both of those inputs and telling it what I want it to do. Okay, your job is to merge two inputs and generate a single image generation prompt. Okay, so we tell it what we want it to do. So what it's basically saying is, Here's a visual prompt telling it like the guidance on how, the style. It's square, infographic, clean, flat vector, illustration style with a warm and professional tone. That's the style that the previous AI gave us based on the example it had. And then we also feed it in down here. Here's the Instagram post itself. So the very first step, we actually created the post. So this gives it context to say, okay, I've got the posts. I know what we talked about in the post. So it knows like this sort of the points to put in here. It's got all the different symptoms for menopause. So it's going to have the content in order to put into the infographic. And it has the style. So now it's got both. So now it has enough information to be able to create an infographic. So this is all this is doing. And the output of this is a final prompt like that. And it's going to tell it what to do, the style, and it's going to tell it what content to put in there. And that's how we get that final image. Now, in order to actually create the infographic, we only need one more module and we're complete. Then all we're going to do is just email that to ourselves, or we can save that to a database. So let's have a look at how we do this final module here. This is another OpenAI module, but there's no built-in module in N8N to run this particular endpoint yet. By the time you watch it, there might be. But for now, we'll just use an HTTP request because it's good practice anyway, because you're going to do this a lot when you build automations. So we get another HTTP module up, and we're going to fill a bunch of credentials in. But in order to get those credentials, it's exactly what we did with this Gina AI step. Same sort of thing. We get all the URLs, the headers, API keys, and we plug it all in and run it. So in order to get those credentials, we need an account at OpenAI. Now, because you've already got these modules set up, you'd have an account at OpenAI. So it's really just using the same thing. It's just slightly different credentials to run a different model. So let's go into the back end of OpenAI, and I'll show you how to find what we need. So if you go to OpenAI, I'm in platform.openai.com. On the left-hand side, you'll see there's images and vision. So this is here, the images and vision. This is where we can get different endpoints that we want to use. So this is the one that was analyzing the image, and this was the built-in module that was already built into N8N. But if it wasn't a built-in module, we could have just used an HTTP request for this. And it tells you how to set up the headers and the body and how to send that information over. That's not the model we're doing right now because we've actually already done this step. What we're doing is this one here, which is the image generation specialized model here. Okay, so it's this one, image generation, and we can create all these really cool images. So if you scroll down, they actually show you here how to set up the HTTP request. It's already there for you. Okay, so all you need to do is grab the URL that we're sending to, that one. We're going to get these two headers that we're going to send to it, and we're going to need our OpenAI key there, your API key that they give you. So you need to have your OpenAI key. So the first header is authorization, and then it's that's the key. The value is bearer, capital B, with a space, and then you have your OpenAI key. The next header is content-type, application JSON. It's just exactly like that. And then this part here is just the body that we're sending in that HTTP request. So we need to tell it, well, what model do you want to run? Because I got a lot of different models. We're going to use GPT image 1. And then we need to give it the prompt, right? And this is what we're going to dynamically map in the prompt. And that's all we need to do. So let's head over to N8N and complete the setup now. Okay, I'm over at N8N. All we need to do is set this method to post. This is where I put the URL. In the header section here, I'm just going to blur some of this out because I've got mine visually showing here. And you're going to put in the headers. Your first header was authorization, and then it was the bearer value. So that's your first header that you need to set up there in that header parameters. And that's actually the only header you need to get this to run, to be honest. You actually don't need the second header, but you do need to send this body over here. You need to slide that to on, and you need to put JSON, and then you need to use the fields below, and we need to put these body parameters. So we can hard code a lot of this because we're not going to need to change it. We're going to put a name model, and we're going to put GPT-image-1, just like that. We're going to put a field called prompt. This we are going to dynamically map in. So we're going to switch that to an expression. And on the left-hand side, we're actually going to get that final prompt here that we just got created, and we're going to drag that straight in there. That's the master prompt that we created. It's going to map straight in there. We're going to put another field called size, and we're going to do the size of the image, which is 1024 by 1024. Obviously, you could change that if it's for a different purpose, but we're going to hard code that for an example. Once that's done, this image generator will be able to create the infographic for us. So all you have to do is just click test the step, run it, and it's going to create it. Now, if you didn't get the result that you quite wanted, then you can just go back and tweak how the prompting is done till you fine tune what you want. That's all you need to do, and it will create the image for you. So if we go through here to the next step, once we've got this image, it's going to be in a format called a base 64 that we can't actually see. It's just going to be a whole bunch of numbers and letters. So if we open up, what we need to do here is add this convert file step. So just go over here, and I think it's just called convert to file, that one. Whack that in there, open it up. And then in here, all you have to do is go operation, move base 64 string to file. And then here, you're just mapping in this string here that we got here. This is the image, but it's in a format we can't read, all these numbers and letters. Drag that in there, into this base 64 field. And then in the put output field, just put data like that. Okay, here, just put data, and then it's going to transform it. So here is an example I did earlier, just transformed it from that. So if we go back, it was just numbers and letters, and here it turns into an image. Okay, so that's all you need to do in this step, and then we're finished. The final step here, I've just put a module to Gmail to email it to myself. Obviously, you don't have to just email it to yourself. You can do whatever you like at this point. But in this example, all I did was, in the fields to email to myself, I just took the output from here, and I took the output from here, which is where the text of the post was created. So this is where the post text was created, and this is where the image was created. And then I'm just going to combine the two and email it to myself. So if you wanted to do an email step, I'll open it up. You just need to get an account and get credentials for Google. I'm not going to go through that step now, but if you wanted to, just read the docs here and go and connect your credentials with Google, and you need to authenticate it with Google. Then we're just sending the actual form that we want to send. So the information we want to send. So what we actually want to send is the message from the original agent. So if we go back to schema and we close a lot of this stuff down, the very first output here was the actual post text. So we'd grab that in and put that in the message body of the email. That's going to email that output to us. And then in order to send the actual infographic, we're going to add an attachment. We're going to do it as an attachment. So you're going to click down here, and you're going to, under options, you're going to put attachments. And then in the attachment field name, just put data. You can just put leave this as fixed, not expression, and just put data. What that's going to do is it's going to look at this convert file module, and it's going to grab the file and attach it. It's going to know to do that. Now, once you do that and click test step, it's going to fire you the email, and then you're going to have the infographic and the body of the actual post sent to you. Now, again, you don't have to use Gmail. You could have saved this back to Airtable. You could have put this a Slack module. You could have Slacked it to yourself or to somebody else to approve or check. There's a lot of different paths you can do once you finish. You could just post it straight to Instagram if you want to, but you really want to have somebody in the loop checking before you're posting. So once you've done that, we're complete, and then you can go back to your email and see what we got. So again, back at my email, this is the infographic I got, and this is the body copy in here. So this is the body here. So now we have a completed Instagram post, which has got a really high quality infographic. And the infographic, by the way, actually has information in it. That's the whole point of an infographic. It's actually read the post that we're talking about. It's read the text of the post, and it's put the real content in the infographic. These are the symptoms that were in the actual text part of the post. And these things were from the research that Gina did. Gina went out to these high quality medical sites and found out that these are the symptoms of menopause. And then it's taken that and created an infographic from it. So I hope you found this video useful on how to automate Instagram with high quality posts and infographics. If you did, do me a huge favor, hit subscribe, leave me a comment below, let me know what you think. And if you want any other videos created, just tell me in the comments below and I'll put them on the list to create. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.